In this final segment on American imperialism, we will situate the United States in contrast to other older colonial powers. The United States never acquired a great overseas territorial empire, yet it became and remains one of the most significant empires in history. One of the ways scholars understand industrial imperialism is through a model called dependency theory. This theory reflects the relationships that exist between former colonial powers, which we will refer to as the metropolis, and the countries that were colonized, hereafter termed the periphery. The essence of dependency theory is the division of the world into two main categories of nations: the metropolis, encompassing industrialized and modernized countries such as Britain, the United States, France, and Belgium, and the periphery, which includes countries like Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, among others. This dichotomy is pivotal in understanding the economic dynamics at play. The theory posits that the periphery countries are suppliers of raw materials and resources to the economically advanced metropolis. This relationship harks back to historical instances such as the British extraction of cotton from India, which was then processed in British mills to produce textiles. These textiles, among other manufactured goods, were often sold back to the markets of the periphery, establishing a cycle of economic dependency. The term dependency theory arises from the inherent economic dependency of the periphery on the metropolis. This dependency is not merely one-dimensional. While the metropolis benefits from the raw materials and markets provided by the periphery, it possesses a diversified economy, enabling it to adapt and thrive even if a particular sector, such as textiles, faces a downturn. In contrast, the economies of periphery countries are often characterized by their reliance on a singular export product, termed a monostaple economy. This lack of diversification renders them vulnerable to market fluctuations. For instance, Brazil's economy, heavily reliant on coffee exports, suffered significantly during World War I when global demand for coffee plummeted. Similarly, Cuba's economic stability, largely dependent on sugar exports, would be at risk if the global sugar market were to decline. This delineation between diversified economies of the metropolis and the monostaple economies of the periphery succinctly encapsulates the rationale behind dependency theory. It highlights the economic vulnerability of the periphery, underscored by their reliance on a singular export commodity and their economic fortune being inextricably linked to the metropolis. How are metropolitan powers able to maintain their imperial advantage? Traditionally, this has been accomplished by direct rule. The metropolis establishes control over all aspects of the colony's functions. This means they assume responsibility for public safety and health, administration, justice, infrastructure, and defense. The American method of imperialism, called economic imperialism, forgoes this responsibility while maintaining the economic advantage. Economic imperialism, as practiced by the United States and other colonial powers, represents a sophisticated evolution of this control mechanism. It is defined as a situation where the peripheral nation is nominally independent, but its economic output is controlled by the metropolitan power. Imperial advantage is maintained by military intervention. Among those clamoring for war against Spain over Cuba were American sugar interests. The U.S. intervention, as we have seen, was predicated on the declaration in the Teller Amendment that disavowed any American territorial ambition. However, at the end of the war, the U.S. Congress passed what is called the Platt Amendment, which recognized Cuba's nominal independence, but allowed the United States to intervene militarily in Cuban affairs for the maintenance of a government adequate for the protection of life, property, and individual liberty. While the Platt Amendment does not specifically state a U.S. right to intervene to protect American sugar interests, those interests are threatened by government instability. This legal instrument effectively placed Cuba's economy under U.S. control, without the direct administrative burden associated with traditional colonialism. The United States did intervene twice in Cuba, in 1906 and 1912, to restore and maintain stability. Economic imperialism, characterized by the nominal independence of the peripheral nation, but with its economic output under the control of the metropolitan power, marks a significant shift in the method of colonial dominance. This approach, maintained through military intervention as necessary, represents a more subtle yet equally potent form of imperialism compared to traditional colonial rule. Please proceed to answer the questions in the assignment on Canvas. If you have any questions, you can post them in the open forum discussion or contact the professor using Canvas email.